Hey folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host. I have felt the need to respond to this, and I'm doing this very carefully, but I also want to not only do it very carefully, but very forcibly. As you know, it wasn't too long ago, a trans person, a woman who's trying to become a man, recently targeted a Christian school. She targeted that school for murder. She meant to. She wasn't intentional about. She targeted that school, and she meant to go into that school and kill Christians. That's the bottom line. That's what she did. And she was a trans person. And her transgender ideology was a motivating force in her targeting a Christian school for murder. She killed not only adults, but she targeted and killed young people, children. They were not armed. They had no knife on them. They had no weapon on them. They had no bomb on them. And this trans person targeted them and killed those babies. Have we forgotten what the Ku Klux Klan did on September 15, 1963, when they targeted the 16th Street Baptist Church in Alabama? They targeted that church. They meant to kill people in that church. They set off a bomb in that church. This happened on September 15, 1963, the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. Several people were injured. 4 black girls died. This was described as a racially motivated terrorism. I can't disagree with that. But look, folks, I'm black and I'm slow. Help me understand this. This trans person was motivated by transgender ideology to commit a heinous act of murder and terrorism against Christians in a Christian school. That's a fact. But we're not hearing from the so-called local black leadership condemning this. I'm going to name names. I'd really like to know where Dr. Kevin Cosby stands on this. I'd really like to know where Pastor Bruce Williams stands on this. Corey Scholl. I'd really like to know where the local NAACP stands on this. I'd really like to know where the Louisville Urban League stands on this. Because that trans person, motivated by this transgender ideology, targeted Christians. Targeted them. Went after them. Isn't that a hate crime? Isn't that what the white left calls a hate crime? Why aren't they calling this a hate crime? Where's the condemnation? Folks, we need to understand something. No, you know what? I'm not going to express my opinion anymore about this, other than to say this to the community of patriots in this city. I'm going to say this to the conservatives in this city. I'm going to say this to the Bible-believing Christians in this city. No more Nashvilles. 2, we need to condemn violence across the board. I don't care if you're targeting Jews, Christians, transgender people, whatever. We need to condemn violence across the board, physical violence across the board. Not alleged violence, but flat out physical violence across the board. We also need to condemn looting and rioting in the streets across the board. If you're no relatively peaceful demonstration exists. Either it's a peaceful demonstration or it's not. And if you're rioting and looting, that's wrong. We need to condemn that across the board. Now, speaking to the Christians and patriots and conservatives in this city, in this state, we know the left's not going to do that because they're driven by ideology. They're driven by pushing their narrative. We know that the Courier Journal is not going to do any real serious investigation on this thing. We know what their opinion is going to be about the murder, the targeting of Christians in Nashville from the radical extremist elements in the transgender, so-called transgender community. We know what their position is going to be. So we have to stand up and say no more Nashvilles. No more Nashvilles. We have to stand up and say it. And we have to stand up and say, you know what? Enough's enough. We have to double our efforts in the way of sharing the gospel with this so-called community. We have to double our efforts in ideologically battling this whole transgender nonsense. Word for word, phrase by phrase, sentence by sentence. We need to battle this nonsense. Period. We need to double our efforts to put into positions of authority human beings who reflect our values on the local level, state level, national level. We need to redouble our efforts. Because let me tell you something, folks. There was a time when the cultural war was just basically, we arguing, fussing, and fighting. Now, from the other side, they're including violence. They're including violence, physical violence. And you're a fool if you think that's not true. Read their literature. I'm gonna tell you something, folks. I used to be a Marxist. I was deep in the Marxist ideology and the socialist movement, deep into it. What they say, they believe, and they have every intention of trying to accomplish it. It's always right there. They're like the National Socialists in Germany. Everything Hitler said he was going to do, he put it in Mein Kampf, is wide open. These white cultural Marxists and these white Marxist Leninists, the same way. Everything they plan on doing, it's written. They're not ashamed of it. They're not ashamed of it. It's right there. It is so with these daggone transgender folk. They're telling you. They put it in writing. What they're about and what they're going to do, what their intent is. And part of what they're trying to bring about in the United States of America involves physical violence. They're telling you that. And you're a fool to ignore it. I'm flat out saying to conservatives, patriots, moderate, classical liberals in the city of Louisville, you're a fool to ignore it. You're a fool to ignore it. They're telling you flat out. This is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host. Hey guys, go to my website, booktalkwithcorbin, CORBIN.com. Check out some of my interviews and all. Go to YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel, Corbin Sievers, or Book Talk with Corbin. Subscribe, like. Go to Facebook. Follow my Facebook page, Book Talk with Corbin.